You are being robbed. Every day, companies like Google, Facebook, and Apple are stealing one of your most valuable possessions, your privacy. And modern technology like cell phones and smartwatches are constantly collecting useful but personal data from you, such as your GPS logs, your photos and videos, and your health data. And companies need this data to run many other products, including apps like Google Translate, voice assistants like Amazon Alexa, and services like Apple Maps. Not that anyone uses it. But as you have probably noticed by now, these companies can't be trusted with your data. Facebook fined $5 billion by the FTC for the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Equifax fined $650 million for losing all your social security numbers. Apple caught listening to private conversations recorded by the voice assistant Siri. And Capital One losing accounts of over 100 million customers. And these are just headlines from the last month. These companies are clearly being irresponsible with your data. But on the other hand, users of these products demand great utility out of them. So if you ask your voice assistant to order you food, and it started calling your boss instead, you might not be too happy with it. So is it possible for these products to still be useful without sacrificing your personal data? Is it possible to have both privacy and utility? Hi, my name is Alex Mercanti, and I'm a PhD candidate in engineering sciences and applied math, and I study the dynamics of privacy, and this is the exact question I focus on. And it turns out that yes, we can have both privacy and utility, and this can be done using randomness. So how? How can randomness protect your privacy? Well, let's say you had some private data that a company like, let's say Google, wanted to know something about. Say it's average. Well, replying directly actually leaks a lot of information about yourself. So instead what you do is you compute your true average, which is 8 in this case, and then you pick a small random number, let's say 2, and then you add them together to get 10, and then you tell Google, well, my average is approximately 10. And so what does this randomness do? Well, it allows anyone to ask you a personal question and for you to reply with an approximate answer without revealing anything specific about yourself. So in particular, it makes differentiating similar data sets difficult. So if you changed any individual entry of your data to a random value, such as changing a 7 to a 2, a company like Google wouldn't be able to tell the difference based only on your answers. And this sort of guarantee is known as differential privacy, and it's currently being used by a handful of companies and government organizations, such as Apple for software bug reporting, the US Census Bureau for releasing stats about the upcoming 2020 census, and by Google for tracking web activity. And while these use cases have been great, it turns out that differential privacy has a pretty big flaw in real-world settings. In practice, your data is typically accessed multiple times. So Google would ask you one question, and then another, and so on. And it turns out that as you continue answering these questions, your privacy level actually decreases. The more questions you answer, the less privacy you have. So is it possible to fix this flaw? Well, for many systems, it turns out we can. In particular, in settings like machine learning, the questions and answers tend to have a special type of structure. The answer to the previous question determines the next question, and so on. And so for this type of interaction, we can actually ask the questions ourselves rather than Google, or whatever company you want. So instead of replying directly, the company instead sends you a set of instructions on how to ask questions. You then take these instructions, load them up onto your computer, and start answering them one after another. And then at the end, you send your final result back to Google, and then they can use it to improve their services for whatever needs they may have. And it turns out that we can prove mathematically that this indirect questioning approach actually prevents your privacy level from decreasing below a certain fixed value. So to summarize, differential privacy has seen some use in government and industry, but remains difficult to use in practice. My research takes the first step at addressing one of the most fundamental failures of differential privacy by taking into account the interaction dynamics between users and services. And so just to finish, let me leave you with this call to action. I urge any organization that makes use of our collective, personal, and sensitive data to 1, be more responsible with our data, and 2, to think more carefully about how they actually need to interact with our data. Thanks for listening.